Sienna Berger.
Thank you, Mr. Holloway. It's a pleasure to serve under your chairmanship this afternoon. Can I put on record my apologies for being a moment late coming over from the Health Select Committee. If I can also congratulate my honourable friend, the member for Liverpool Riverside, for securing this very important and timely debate this afternoon on behalf of all our constituents across. Oh, that's kind. I'm fine. Thank you so much for securing this debate on behalf of our constituents. It's a very pertinent and very, very serious issue affecting thousands of people across the area that we are privileged to represent. I would also like to endorse the comments made by my honourable friend for Garston and Harewood in her speech as well. And I would seek in my contribution this afternoon not to reiterate the comments that have been already made, but seek to add to them. I wanted to raise during my contribution just some of the additional pressures that Liverpool is facing and has faced over the last nearly 7 years since the cuts were first introduced in 2010. And I also wanted to add some very personal reflections of my constituents who themselves are actually experiencing these cuts firsthand, because ultimately, Mr. Holloway, we are here on behalf of our constituents, and it's their experiences that we should be sharing with the House to understand the real human tragic element and implications of the cuts that we have seen. I also wanted to reflect on my own personal experience of being in an accident emergency on a Friday night in Liverpool just a couple of weeks ago and seeing the number of ambulances that were waiting and the number of paramedics who were essentially, at least 10 of them, waiting to book people in. Many of those people were older people, and we know from the figures that we've got a significant challenge with delayed discharge and issues within our accident emergencies, I believe, compounded by the cuts that we've seen to social care. As we heard from my two honourable friends and their contributions, there are 5,000 fewer people in Liverpool today receiving support via care packages. And on behalf of two of my constituents I've just been connecting with in the past week alone, I've got one constituent, a lady called Sobia, who is paralysed, and she used to receive overnight care. And despite her condition becoming worse, and despite her children now being of age where they are going to university, so they're not as available to care for her in the way that they were previously, she's seen her overnight care stopped because of the cuts to social care in Liverpool. I've recently intervened in the past few weeks on behalf of one of my constituents called Veronica, who had additional support to help her with various things. Her care was stopped, and I have every sympathy for the difficult decisions that Liverpool City Council is having to make under the current circumstances. I intervened on her behalf, and she's still waiting for some of that care to be reinstated. And as I said, I have every sympathy that care hasn't been reinstated yet because of the pressures, the very, very significant pressures that Liverpool City Council is under, as we've heard in previous comments. Those pressures don't look set to get any easier. And in particular, we've got demographic pressures in the Liverpool City area, as do many places across our country, particularly with the growing ageing population that we have locally. We know that the 65-plus age group is set to grow by 50% over the next 20 years. That is a significant challenge for any area to contend with, particularly with the cuts that have been incurred so far. The financial pressures that Liverpool City Council faces, particularly as a result of the introduction of the national living wage. It's cost £13.9 million in 2017-18, rising to an additional £24.7 million by 2019-20. That is not an insignificant sum for the council to be contending with. And there's also a very specific piece of legislation which I know that is currently undergoing a review by the Law Commission, and I hope there will be some changes come forward soon which might help to alleviate the 400% increase in applications around DOLS, the deprivation of liberties legislation, which we know needs some attention. That is costing Liverpool City Council £1 million a year. And just that small thing, I know which changes may or may not be coming forward with the changes to legislation, I hope would have some impact, but £1 million in what is a significant larger sum that the council is having to contend with. The demand pressures that we are seeing locally are also particularly significant. We know that every week Liverpool City Council is arranging care packages for up to 100 people leaving hospital. That's a 51% increase, Mr. Hollowbone, compared to last year. We know that there's a lot more complex home care cases, again, which cost a significant sum, might require 2 carers calling 4 times a day. And we know that adult social care assessment requests have risen by 15% since 2010, up from 18,000 to 21,000 a year, and that is expected to rise to nearly 23,000 by next year, by 2018. There has been a 5,715 requests for support from new clients, which is, again, a 10% increase on the previous year. So we as constituency MPs, on behalf of our constituents, are contending with the challenges today. And I've just shared with you just a few of the additional challenges, the financial pressures, the demand pressures, and the demographic pressures, which mean that Liverpool City Council will have even further challenges and even more challenges as the years progress. And it's on that basis that I again endorse the comments made by my honourable friends this afternoon that we need some very serious attention from government to this matter. Social care cannot be dealt with separately from our wider health service. The two go hand in hand, and whether we see that in our accident and emergency departments or in our GP surgeries, it's no surprise that more people are turning up there when 5,000 fewer people today are getting care packages than did in 2010. And we know there's increased need as well. And all of those things combined, I hope will essentially, tomorrow is the Chancellor's budget, and I look forward to hearing in the Minister's response and in his comments what representations he and his department have made to ensure that social care is really given the attention and resource that it desperately not only needs and deserves on behalf of those thousands of constituents that don't receive care today but deserve it, and on behalf of those thousands of more elderly people that will need it going into the future. I haven't reflected specifically on those constituents that might also need mental health support that are also not getting the support that they need today and deserve it into tomorrow. This situation cannot be allowed to continue. We see and experience in our surgeries and in our weekly visits, those constituents are having to contend with the daily realities of not getting that support that they need and deserve. And on behalf of all of them, I sincerely hope that the Minister in his response will give us some glimmer of light and hope that what we were anticipating in the autumn statement that didn't come forward, tomorrow will be some reality and something positive to essentially positively impact on all of our constituents' lives.